Hello and welcome to the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. We are already at the knockout stage, and today I'm going to show you the matchup between Alireza Firouzja, the 17-year-old youngster, against Wesley So, who is known to be a monster in this online tournaments. Actually won several ones, and actually I think even won the previous the final of the finals. So let's see what happens. So the guys are playing for 2 days, and today was the first day, and it actually started out very nicely for Wesley So. In the first game, he more or less in a nice game, but more or less in a straight game, he managed to collect the point with the white pieces. Even though Firouzja had some miraculous save at the very end, but he missed it. The second game seemed to be the exact opposite of the first one. Alireza had a beautiful position and he was pushing it very nicely. However, he made first a mistake which led actually Wesley So back into the game, and the position was about equal, and then Firouzja even blundered and the position was just lost for him. And again he had a miraculous save which he couldn't find in the time trouble, so once again Wesley So struck. And now we are in the third game. So it's an absolute must win for Alireza. If he doesn't win this one, then Wesley automatically wins the first day and first set. However, if Firouzja manages to win this one, then he will have one more white game to equalize. So let's get started with the game. So Wesley the white pieces, Firouzja with the black pieces. And now comes e4, and in the first game Firouzja played a Sicilian with c5. However, now comes c6, the Caro-Kann, which used to be Firouzja's main weapon. Here comes d4, d5, and Wesley So is well known to play the move e5 here. Bishop f5, knight f3, e6. So this is how Wesley plays against the Caro-Kann basically all the time. Bishop e2 and knight e7. So Firouzja actually needs something with the black pieces, so he's going to come up with a very aggressive plan. So we'll see. Comes castles, and now he plays the line with h6 with the idea of pushing further with g5. Now comes a4, very typical idea to try to push on the queen side, but Firouzja comes with g5. Comes a5, you have to stop that with a6, and now comes b4. So it's very clear that white is going to have a huge space advantage, but what black really wants is some counterplay against the white king. Now comes knight d7, c3, and you absolutely need to strike in the center as black. c5 is not possible, so now you have to play f6. And after e takes f6, here comes a very nice move from Alireza. So if you were to take it back immediately, then the e5 square would be up for a grab for white, and all of a sudden your position as black is just looking horrible. So very important move. Now comes knight g6, and you want to take back with the queen. You want to put your bishop on d6 probably first. This f6 pawn is actually not going to run away, and it's very important to keep the control of the e5 square. So now Wesley plays move f7. This is going to ruin the chance of black castling. However, you don't really have to bother with this as black. It's not a big deal. Your plan is really to put the bishop on d6, develop your queen probably somewhere, and then just avalanche your pawns, and you absolutely have to check with the white king. This is the whole idea not in the opening, but as you are down by 2 points at this point in the match, you have to absolutely win anyway. So now comes knight d2, bishop d6, very natural move, knight b3. The knight will have a beautiful outpost on c5. However, from c5 he's going to be very far away from the white king. Comes queen c7. Now the threat is some g4, so you have to play g3, knight f6, bishop d3. And now you can see that all the black pieces are actually ready to attack. Really all of them. And now the pawn avalanche is up next. So now comes g4, knight d1, and h5. So already Wesley, in my opinion, must have felt very uncomfortable, because it's really all the black pieces and the pawns are gonna come after his king. He plays the move rook a2, so that at some point, if something like so h4, h takes g, and then you can take back with your f pawn, and then this rook looks quite useful. Also, you can put the rook on e2, but Alireza just goes forward, h4, knight c5, and here actually the computer points out that Alireza made a small mistake. So best is to immediately start with h takes g3 here, Humanly, it's not a big deal. He started with rook h5, but actually there is an incredibly strong computer move which only computers plays here. But it turns out that that's a super strong move. So if you want to find some computer moves, you can stop the video here and try to figure it out. Otherwise, I will just tell you because it's quite ridiculous. So one move that you would really like to play as white, sorry, not move, but what you would really like to do is try to open up the position in the center against the black king. And the move you can do is just completely weaken your king with f3, but it turns out that you are going to be the first to arrive to the black king. So it looks like a horrible move because now comes h takes g and your king is just collapsing. But the whole point is that after f takes g4, this is actually a fork. You are pinning along the f file and you cannot really take back this piece because this pawn, because after queen g4 you're actually pinned. Or even if you do the other way around and now the knight is gonna be pinned, and again you can just take. But yeah, I mean, playing f3 and weakening your whole king side is just ridiculous move. Black can also just sidestep, and it turns out that all these complications are actually favoring white. But in a sort of a must-draw situation with white, nobody plays f3. So here comes the move rook e2, lot more human, lot more logical. And here Alireza does take on g3, and after f takes g3, this is the time to strike. He does take on g3. You have to take back, there's no other move here. Queen g3. You have to put your rook to g2, that's your only move because you have to protect also the h2 square. And now comes queen h3. And if we stop here for a second, so what's happening is that black sacrificed the piece. However, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and very quickly 6 pieces still to attack. Well, white is actually also good on pieces, so he's got all these things around. However, at the time being the c1 bishop and the c5 knight, so these two are actually not defending, and that eventually gives a piece advantage for black on the king side. And there's also this pawn kind of pushing down the white army, so this looks like a devastating attack. But so Wesley fights on just tremendously. So its first move is to immediately give back the piece with knight takes e6. The point is that you would like to come back here or here. So here, I mean, you naturally just accept the piece. I mean, that's a very logical move. The best move, obviously, take this piece. And so the point is that actually bishop takes g6 seems like a good move for white. And after king g6 with king d3, you can exchange the pieces and you believe that your knight is gonna jump to d3, and from d3 it has all these nice squares, and you're even done a pawn. The position doesn't look that bad. However, black is not forced to take on d3. You can play the move knight e4, very important move. And once you take here, the black rook takes back, and there is still control over the third rank. The knight cannot jump to d3, and you're actually getting still checkmated after rook h8. Even though there are no queens on the board. So bishop takes g6 is not the move that Wesley was preparing. The move he prepared was knight fg. Actually an amazing move. It is losing, but there's only one way to beat this, and that way is just a miraculous way to win for black. So first of all, if you want, again, you can stop the video here and try to find a win for Firouzja. At this point he had like 1 minute, and the win is actually beautiful, but it's incredibly hard to find. So white's plan here is obviously some knight g5, knight e5, and then you're actually doing well. So black absolutely has to act now, and the winning move here is the beautiful queen takes g2. So you're giving up your queen for a rook. However, after king takes g2, you are taking the horse with another check. And the point is that this pawn is actually untouchable. If you take with the queen, you are getting forked from here, and the game is over. If you take with the queen, you are getting forked from here, and the game is over. If you are taking with the rook, you are getting forked from here, and the game is over. So the problem for white is that he actually has to let this guy live. And once you do that, there is going to be just way too many pieces for black to checkmate the white king. So the point is you can move your king here, you can play something like king g3, but now there comes check, here, other check, still untouchable guy. If you come back, for example, and now comes the other rook with the idea of rook h3, and there's no way to stop this. Yeah, so this was a fantastic way to finish up the game and strike for Alireza. However, he did miss this one, and I mean, this is just incredibly hard to find, so it's not very surprising. He played move knight h4, but after knight h4, finally white can take this knight, queen h4, and finally the white bishop arrives the game, bishop f4, controlling this very important diagonal. And the thing is that there's nothing better for black here than the perpetual. So there's going to be rook h8, queen e2, and in this position, actually Alireza starts with giving a check, another check and back, and this would be the correct ending of the game because it's just a perpetual in this position. And this is the guaranteeing a win for Wesley, so he's also very happy with it. However, of course, Alireza does push on because there is no difference for him between making a draw and losing, so he plays the move g3. After bishop g3, queen h3, now comes bishop e5, and all of a sudden white is just completely winning. There are all sorts of bishop g6 jets, rook takes x6 jacks, and yeah, the position is just horrible. So now came rook h6, and now after taking these guys, you can't take this back anymore because then the queen arrives and the checkmate is very soon. So after queen h1, this is the only way to fight on, and here we can see that it's actually enough for Wesley to make a draw, and here he switches. I mean, he's completely winning, but here he rather just switches to making the draw. So he exchanges here, and then he also decides to give up everything for just a completely drawn ending. The queen f6, he even gives up this guy, and here, even though black is up a pawn, this is completely drawish because these pawns are super nicely fixed on the dark squares. All the black pawns are on the light squares, and there's no way to break through this one. So they are going to play back and forth for a while, and then he plays some d4 move, and then white is just going to take all the pawns. d5 is actually another nice move. You want to put your king on d4. If you take with the pawn, then finally you can take with the bishop. So the whole trick is that here you would actually lose probably your bishop at some point. Not even sure you're losing this, but seems like pretty much trapped. So he just plays d5 first, and whatever, there were incredibly many ways to draw this ending, and then there will be no points left, and they just eliminated everything. And this draw actually does mean that Wesley So managed to win the first set to 2.5 actually didn't even play the last game. That was not necessary because Wesley So just won already. And as for the rest of the pairings, Magnus Carlsen was just as quick as Wesley So because he also finished Aronian in 3 games, 2.5, and the other games are actually still the other pairings are still ongoing. So we will see. As for this pairing, Wesley is now in very much in a driving seat. Tomorrow it's enough for him to make a draw, so 2-2 would be enough. However, Alireza absolutely has to win the whole win the set, which would start with finally beating Wesley, because in these 4 games he did not manage to beat Wesley yet. So that's about it, and see you tomorrow.